It's hard to learn about Islamic history without knowing about the Ottomans. Their imperial ambition saw them form an empire which stretched from Eastern Europe to the Persian Gulf. But their origins were modest and unsteady. What wasn't humble was the vision of the first Ottoman ruler, Osman. Despite only having a small band of warriors around him, it is said he had a dream that his descendants would go on to create a mighty empire that ruled an immense realm. So he set about to establish a strong base for his successors to go on and achieve his dream. By 1243, the Mongols brought their campaign of conquest to Anatolia. At the Battle of Kosidag, they dispatched the forces of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, thereby sending Anatolia into a power vacuum filled with lots of little principalities known as beyliks, which contended with one another. The Mongol invasion of Central Asia drove huge numbers of Turkomans westwards in an attempt to escape the wrath of the Mongol Khan. Many of these migrant Turkomans would end up in Anatolia, where they even went on to set up a few beyliks. At the turn of the 13th century, a beylik was established in northwestern Anatolia in the region of Bithynia by a man named Osman. His name would lend itself to the dynasty he established, which was known as Osmanli to the Turks and Ottoman to the Europeans. Sometimes people are tempted to ascribe the founding of the Ottoman dynasty to the year 1299, but there is no clear evidence to confirm this. What we do know is that it took place around the beginning of the 13th century. Later Ottoman historical traditions would assert that the Ottomans were from the Kai tribe of the Oghuz Confederacy, which made its way to Anatolia as a result of the Mongol conquest of Central Asia in the generation of Osman's grandfather. Whilst this makes sense chronologically, the details surrounding the origin of the Ottomans are too obscure to recount as historical facts. One thing that we can confirm is the historical authenticity of Osman's father, Ertugrul, the subject of the popular Turkish historical drama, as we can tell from coins minted during Osman's reign. Another Ottoman tradition that was later projected onto their origins is known as Osman's dream. According to 15th century Ottoman chroniclers, Osman had a dream that his descendants would go on to create a powerful empire that ruled a vast area. The story goes that Osman was staying the night in the home of a local holy man named Sheikh Edabali, when in his dream he saw that a moon arose from the holy man's breast and came to sink in his own breast. A tree then sprouted from his navel and its shade compassed the world. The veracity of this story has understandably been criticized. It was most likely written to give the dynasty an added layer of luster in the shape of a foundational myth. Regardless of its veracity, Osman's dream and vision were put to the test early on when the Byzantine emperor sent an army to deal with the Turks. In 1301 or 1302, the first noticeable military incursion involving the Ottomans took place at the Battle of Betheus. There, they defeated a Byzantine force sent to neutralize their threat to the environs of key Byzantine strongholds such as Nicaea and Prusa, known to the Turks as Iznik and Bursa respectively. According to contemporary Byzantine chroniclers, Bithynia in this period was a prosperous and populous area, and one that was well defended as well. So even though the victory at Betheus gave Osman a largely free hand in the countryside, the key cities withstood Ottoman aggression. Nonetheless, Osman took his time making the necessary preparations, Without siege weapons, he knew that storming major Byzantine cities would likely be a fruitless endeavor. As a result, he set about to pick off the numerous minor forts that were scattered throughout the region. This was an advantageous strategy because A, it was achievable, and B, more importantly, it would make the task of taking the bigger cities easier when he did eventually want to move in on them, because they'd be left isolated. So over the next 2 decades, he led his band of warriors across the Bithynia region, raiding and besieging forts. In the process, he was able to attract more and more men to take up arms with him. With its many beyliks, the political landscape of 14th century Anatolia was in constant flux, thereby providing an opportunity for the warrior-inclined culture of the Turks to find opportunities in Osman's campaigns. As his prestige grew, so did the size of Osman's army, swollen by fresh recruits. But not all his new soldiers were Turks. Because the Ottoman state was established in a frontier region, its leaders were endowed with a specific mentality. That mentality was essentially forced upon them by their environment. Historically, frontier regions were likelier to have a greater degree of mobility. Migration, allegiance switching, and even overall intercommunal relations tended to be more fluid. Consequently, Osman's dealings with Byzantine subjects would have reflected this nuanced frontier approach. So it is no surprise that numerous Christians joined his band of warriors too, with the Byzantine renegade Qasem Mehal going on to become a prominent figure in his and his son Orhan's reign. By 1317, Osman felt ready to take his first major city. Setting his sights on Bursa, he soon realized the siege would be the biggest fight of his life. The lack of siege weaponry meant that the city resisted for almost 9 years, in the end being forced to surrender due to the fear of starvation. Osman would die in roughly 1324, and soon after, the city fell to his son and successor Orhan. Osman's work in isolating Bursa and other cities from Constantinople proved pivotal. But more importantly, he had set up a base from which his successors could now grow and achieve his dream. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you check out the full-length documentary I made on the rise of the early Ottomans. As usual, big thank you to all of my patrons for financially supporting me. If you want to do the same, click the link in the end screen or in the description to this video. Until next time, peace!